So good evening, Annapurna. Wonderful to have you on the Pharma CEO Roundtable 2023, which we are having in a hybrid model. What we are planning to do is to have the one-on-one discussion with the C-suite leaders over a couple of questions. And then we will be having the physical event on March 1st, where a select group of CEOs will come to listen to Vikas Dandekar and Sumit Chandna. So this is the event what I am talking about on the March 1st. We will have two keynotes, one by Vikas Dandekar, who is a veteran pharma journalist, and with Sumit Chandna, who's the consulting partner at EY India Life Sciences. So Salil has curated this entire program, both the online discussions as well as the physical discussions that will happen on 1st of March. So welcome again to the Pharma CEO Roundtable discussions that we are having in 2023.
Thank you, Anup. Very good evening to all of you. And I wish there was a chance to be there physically on 1st of March. But in the true sense, I think you're creating the hybrid world, merging the virtual and the physical world together. But I'm so glad to be here, especially that I have been away from being located in India and being in Singapore. I think this is a great opportunity for me to reflect and share at least what have been my experiences and how I'm viewing, at least from a lens, both historically what I've seen in India and also the broader lens of Asia.
So here's the first question for you, Annapurna. Digital engagement creates opportunities to build more robust customer experiences. How are you seeing this playing out in countries across the Asia-Pacific region?
I think while many of us got the digital engagement acceleration triggered by COVID-19, but I think I would say the play in different countries or for different organizations or different business teams differ primarily on when they started the journey, right? So those organizations who were already on a digital engagement journey pre-COVID have a different maturity and different adoption level. And those which was largely driven by the COVID have a different maturity level. So how is it playing out? I think most of us have seen a major shift in physical engagement with customers, correct? And we went from being fully physical to zero, fully virtual. I think today across the countries, we have seen that physicians or customers would like to have some kind of a connect, a human connect, correct? And that is emerging as a key ask or a key customer experience ask from in most of the markets. At the same time, what we also see that across countries, customers are also more and more comfortable by using different, truly the omni-channel that we are using. Okay, so we see better adoption of virtual events. We see better adoption of interactive platforms where they can both interact virtually and provide insights, clinical practice insights or share clinical practice insights, as well as we see them that they are also open to participate in exchanges with over telephones or with virtual platforms. So it is panning out with very concretely that physicians will like to have a human experience, but will like to blend it with more channels and will like to use it to gain experience and get learnings from both the channels, which is human experiences as well as the virtual channels.
That's a wonderful insight from you that there is a difference between the companies that adopted digital before COVID and the companies that adopted digital when physical or face-to-face meetings were no longer available. So the digital maturity and the digital adoption of pharma companies across the Asia-Pac region more or less reflects that what has been happening in India is that there have been companies who have been using doctor platforms to reach out to doctors, and their maturity levels would certainly be much different than for those companies who switched over to digital because the physical was no longer available. But as you rightly said, when we are looking at the market now, companies have realized that the human touch is essential, but this can be augmented and made more effective, or rather augment the physical visits, which are not easy still. There are still challenges in getting physical meetings. So augmenting them with omni channels, as you said, is the way forward that many companies are looking at.
And the learning curves are different, correct? When I say about maturity, it is primarily trying to understand the customer profile and their affinity for digital channel. Okay? That's very important, that which customer, and trying to move, I think, move more towards targeted and customization of channels and content and engagement, rather than focusing on the volume of channel engagement touch points that you create. I think that's the biggest shift that's happening. The second maturity shift which I see happening is how do you really balance your hybrid, which is like purely hybrid, which is physical plus digital, versus purely digital touch points, correct? So you would always, I think that's a big one. What I see emerging is you can always talk about something which is a hybrid of a hybrid, which is hybrid of a pure digital, correct? Which is, can you augment your pure digital touch points with some kind of an AI empowered interaction, correct? So if there is a pure digital engagement with customer, can you create an engagement experience where the customer has the ability to engage and exchange? So that's a very important element which I see when I talk about maturity. Segmentation, profiling, customization of channel and content, and then how do you augment not just your hybrid, but purely digital to the next level of engagement.
Absolutely. Those are wonderful insights for us. So I think going forward, pharma will be segmenting their doctors as digital and non-digital, or they can even go more granular and say digital natives, digital immigrants, or somewhere in between, and then customize the omni-channel approach according to the digital profile of the customer, so that they get to have a better experience based on where they are in the digital maturity curve. So that's definitely a wonderful insight. And then what you talked about is purely digital, because we see that many pharma companies, at least in the beginning, try to superimpose whatever they were doing in the face-to-face world onto the digital platform, more or less like what Salil likes to call as the paper on glass approach. So I think going forward, there will be two different approaches. Is that one is to augment the work of the physical work of the medical rep, and the other one is a purely digital, which has got tremendous potential, because then it really expands the reach. The marketing can now directly reach doctors who they would have never thought of reaching before, because many of these doctors are now digitally savvy and they are already on different platforms.
Absolutely.
So my second question to you is that countries differ in the maturity of digital adoption. Can you share any notable work that you have seen in the more digitally mature market that our markets can learn from?
It's a very tricky question. Okay, so I think I wouldn't call out name of one country versus the other, because if you look at the digital strategy across the countries in South Asia or Southeast Asia, which is where I particularly focus, I think while they might be having different maturity, but largely the strategy is the same. The strategy is that is driven by two major factors. That's number one, how would HCPs like to get engaged with pharma, and how would patients like to engage with HCPs, correct? And these are the two foundation of the entire engagement. I think the more mature markets actually work a lot on the HCP, the triangulation of HCP, patient, and as a healthcare provider or healthcare service provider, or the pharma player or a healthcare player. I think that's the major difference. That's where you start triangulating. That's one. How do you bring the access of HCPs more easily to physicians, or more easily to patients, or when patients are looking for the right physician, how do you really play that role, or when patients are looking for the right decision-making pathway for the choices they need to make for their healthcare or that. So I think that triangulation is happening more in mature, and I think is also, and I'm not even going into digital therapeutics or etc. It's purely triangulation of bringing three parties and flow of information, physical flow of advice easier for them. The patient, the physician, and the healthcare players. I think that's one fundamental shift that we see there. The second thing that's happening in countries where there is mature is expanding the total coverage of physicians. Okay, bring all together, capturing virgin physicians, which means physicians you have never met earlier, physicians you have never engaged earlier, and this actually drives the access part of it, correct? So you can really engage with those physicians and actually move them the curve of adoption ladder of newer treatment, newer therapies, of a newer vaccination, and move them that curve purely digital, correct? And that I think is very, very empowering from pure healthcare impact perspective. So these are the two major shifts that I see when it is mature versus less mature.
Great. I think that's also a good insight to have, is that instead of pharma used to its traditional way of pushing what information it wants to give to the doctors, you are looking now at in what way would doctors like pharma companies to engage with them via digital. And more importantly, the digital also provides a pathway for pharma companies to engage with the patients by way of giving them information either through third parties or themselves directly on various disease conditions where they can better manage themselves or understand more about the treatment, about the drugs, and so on and so forth. So certainly it expands the physician's universe, the reach of the pharma companies to the physician's universe. They can literally meet hundreds or thousands of doctors who are digitally very savvy. And I have a huge following on Twitter, and if you see the exchanges that physicians are having on MedTwitter, it's emerging, I would say, as the next CME platform for doctors, because here you are sharing a case or a challenge that you are having, and you are getting suggestions and solutions from doctors, not only from India, but from across the world. So it is definitely expanding, giving pharma companies an opportunity to expand the coverage of the entire physician universe when they use digital platforms correctly. Okay, the final question is, traditionally vaccines have been transactional business. How has this changed in the evolving world with greater awareness of the need for vaccinations, and some vaccines have become household names? I think you are in a wonderful space now, because there is so much of questions, so much of concerns, especially in the people's mind. I wouldn't even call them patients, because we are giving vaccines to healthy people to prevent diseases. And I think digital opens a huge opportunity. And vaccines have actually taken pharma's reputation upwards after the COVID, a very real positive development, because pharma companies came up with vaccines very quickly. And I think going forward, I think all vaccines will have a much better acceptance, because people are now realizing the importance of vaccines. Because when I was growing up in the 60s, it was a normal thing for us to take everything from the BCG vaccine to the smallpox vaccine, and we were very vaccine friendly. But I think with the reduction in these infections, this is the first time the adults are being asked to take vaccines. And that's a complete new ball game. So how do you see all this playing out from a vaccine market expert?
Yeah, I think what you are saying, I wish it would have been as true as we thought it would be. But as we look around today, I think, especially if you see in the public health programs, we have seen erosion in the vaccines coverage rate in many countries, especially in public programs, etc., which means that there have been disruption. I would say a bit of indifference to go and seek active vaccination, especially for children too, if there has been an erosion. So yes, the world has changed, but probably it has not fully translated for the desired vaccines coverage rate or vaccine preventable disease that we would like to. So as I said, that we have seen erosion in vaccine coverage rate in public health program, which I believe all of the countries and the public health experts are driving to get them back, plug the gap, and ensure that we do not erode vaccines coverage rate, especially for children. When it comes to adult vaccination, right, and we have not seen so far after the initial peaking of people seeking adult vaccination, COVID or otherwise, the influenza vaccination, etc., we haven't seen that sustenance of that traction or that that excitement to go and proactively seek vaccination apart from COVID-19. So I don't think we need a pandemic to create another traction for the other adult vaccination. So where are we today, especially for adult vaccination? I think the people like us, like Sanofi, and we continue to invest heavily in driving vaccine education awareness, because vaccines do not save, vaccination saves, correct? So we have to bring people aware and bring more encouraged and confident people to physician, encourage them, educate them to go and seek vaccination or seek advice from physician. So that's what continues to do. I think what has changed now is the ability to at least stop by and listen by consumers. So I think that is, so we have a better audience now when we talk about vaccination. But as I said, that attention has not been converted into vaccine coverage in adults, which means we have still a lot of work to do. We have to still keep talking about all adult vaccination, whether it is influenza, pneumococcal, other boosters. We will have a lot of work to continue to do. But of course, we have more educated consumers today and who are more open and ready to listen and consume and probably take action.
Great, that's wonderful, because what the pandemic has done is made us more aware of vaccines, and there is a need for information about vaccines. And so there is on one hand a population that is willing to listen to more information and get educated and understand what these vaccines are all about, especially in the adults. And more importantly, there is a channel available that's a digital platform that helps you to do some kind of mass customization when it comes to different patient segments and what kind of vaccines would be useful in what different age groups. So it's wonderful talking to you, Annapurna. I look forward to more interactions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
You too. Thanks, and all the best for the event. And I'm looking forward to all the invaluable insights from the conversations with such a great
yes,
group.
Sure. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.